Last time we were introduced to a princess of the Kievan Rus, left as the regent to her young son after her husband's murder. Last time we witnessed her get her vengeance for her husband's murder. This time we get to see her rule the lands of the Kievan Rus until her son comes of age, and even go on a little adventure. This is the continuation of the story of Saint Olga of Kyiv. Raid Shadow Legends is now employing armed guards outside their offices in order to stop me from bugging them for a sponsorship. However, you guys can support me by simply liking, subscribing, sharing, and tapping that bell icon to get notified whenever I upload. Also, if you want access to these videos 48 hours early, you can do so by becoming a patron for just £1 a month. Now, I think I've shilled enough, so let's get on with the video. With her revenge complete, Olga set about ruling the lands of the Kievan Rus until her son came of age, and even then she found herself in administrative positions while he was off campaigning. I'm so happy that that only took 2 takes. You didn't see it, but I really was struggling with the administrative. Oh, now I say it perfectly, first time. Obviously, Olga kept collecting tributes, but she completely changed the system of how this was done. Instead of collecting tributes through local chiefs, she had her own officials go out and collect the tributes, thus mitigating the risk of being torn apart by trees. That was uncalled for. This was the first ever recorded legal reform in Eastern European history. Olga set up a series of pagosti which served as hunting lodges, milestones, trading posts and tax centres. At some point in the 950s, Olga visited Constantinople, or Tsarograd, the city of Kaisers as it was known to the Rus. It could be City of Caesars, I'm not 100% sure, so I'm going with like the Latin pronunciation, because obviously Kaiser leads to Tsar, so Tsarograd, it makes sense if it translated to that. You could say City of Caesars, I'm just being pedantic. This was either at the behest of the Eastern Roman Emperor Constantine VII, or simply a diplomatic mission. We simply don't know the exact reasons why Olga travelled to Constantinople. Whilst she was visiting Constantinople, Olga took an interest in Christianity. It's also not known exactly what caused Olga to take an interest in Christianity, although it is said that she was inspired by Christian members of the Eastern Roman court. Whatever the case, Olga began spending a lot of time with the Patriarch, the Christian religious head in Constantinople. He began instructing her on everything he could about the Christian faith and the doctrines of the church, such as prayer, fasting, almsgiving, and the maintenance of chastity. Now, during this visit, the Eastern Roman Emperor Constantine VII took a shine to Olga. In other words, he found her incredibly attractive and was completely sideswiped by her stunning intelligence. He even went as far as to say that Olga was worthy of ruling alongside him. Now, Olga didn't want to marry Constantine. At the very least, this would give the Eastern Roman Empire a great deal of control over the lands of the Kievan Rus. So Olga pulled what historians call a pro-Olga move. She simply smiled at Constantine and informed him that she could not rule alongside him, nor could she marry him, because she was a pagan. However, she would accept a baptism and would become a Christian. The only caveat to this was that she would only do it if Constantine performed the baptism himself. Constantine, excited to get his end away, immediately accepted Olga's offer, with the Patriarch agreeing as well. After the conversion, the Patriarch would say to Olga, "Blessed art thou among the women of Rus, for thou hast loved the light and quit the darkness. The sons of Rus shall bless thee to the last generation of thy descendants." Olga was baptised under the name Helena. Now, this was after the mother of Saint Constantine the Great, Saint Helena, both historical figures that I bring up in my Modern Roman Successors video, which is a video you should go and check out. The other option is that she was named after Constantine VII's current wife, Helena. See what you did there. Once the baptism was complete, Constantine once again offered Olga the opportunity to rule alongside him as his wife. Again, Olga smiled and responded to Constantine. "How can you marry me after yourself baptizing me and calling me your daughter? For among Christians that is unlawful, as you yourself must know." In that moment, Constantine found himself completely humbled, but was gracious in defeat, saying, "Olga, you have outwitted me." At some point, there was another conversation with the Patriarch in which Olga said, "Through thy prayers, Holy Father, may I be preserved from the crafts and assaults of the devil." After this, Olga departed Constantinople and received the Patriarch's blessing for her journey home. Constantine would give Olga gifts of gold, silver, silk and vases, like she was some kind of medieval Twitch streamer that he never had a chance with. However, he may have been expecting gifts of slaves, wax and fur in return. Allegedly, after a short while, he wrote a letter to Olga asking where these gifts were. So less of a simp, more r/nice guy. Olga responded to his letter by saying that he would receive these gifts as soon as he spent as much time in her realm as she had in his. There doesn't seem to be a response from Constantine. When she returned to Kyiv, Olga tried to convert her son Svyatoslav to Christianity. However, he refused, fearing that his followers would mock him. But upon his ascension, Svyatoslav promised that there would be no persecution of Christians amongst the lands of the Kievan Rus. Olga then began building churches within the lands of the Kievan Rus, but was ultimately unsuccessful in converting the population. Olga also began corresponding with the Holy Roman Emperor, requesting that he appointed bishops for the Kievan Rus. Sadly, Olga's grand plans didn't come to fruition as the second Svyatoslav rose to power with his pagan followers. He immediately banished the bishops the second that they arrived. When Svyatoslav came of age, he began going out on military campaigns, one of which was paid for by the Eastern Roman Empire. Svyatoslav attacked the Bulgarians at the Eastern Romans' behest, but unbeknownst to him, they had also paid a Turkic people, the Pechenegs, to attack him from the rear. It's also noted that at this point, Svyatoslav had conquered the city of Pereslavets near the mouth of the Danube and planned to move his court there. This left Olga alone with her grandchildren when the Pechenegs laid siege to Kyiv. Olga only had a few defenders and a few units of Druzina, an elite warrior class, to defend Kyiv. And the Druzina were on the other side of the Dnipro River. Now, Olga wasn't going down without a fight, and vastly outnumbered, she devised a plan. For a few weeks, she tried to get out messages to her son and to her units across the river, whilst also managing the defence of the city. As attempts at communication failed, Olga was given a miracle. Just as the food was about to run out, a young boy who knew the Pecheneg language was found and given a mission. He was sent into the Pecheneg camp, pretending to look for his horse. Eventually he found his way to the riverbank and dove into the river. Before the Pechenegs even realised what was happening and began shooting at the boy, he was already at the other side of the river, where he informed the Druzina to attack the next morning. The next morning, the Druzina crossed the river. Then they charged, playing every war instrument they had to make it seem like they were far more numerous than they actually were. When they reached the Pechenegs, Olga sallied out with the city's defenders and joined the fray. This convinced the Pechenegs that Svyatoslav had returned and they fled the field. field. By the time the Pechenegs realised what had happened, their general was so genuinely impressed that he decided to withdraw. This was a mistake, as we all know. Olga does not forget, and Olga most certainly does not forgive. She immediately wrote to her son, scolding him for abandoning his family and demanding that he return to Kiev. Like any son being told off by his mother, he raced back and smashed the Pechenegs. Svyatoslav then informed Olga of his plan to move to Pereslavets, where the spoils of his campaign were kept and the city was closer to his new fast-growing territories. Heartbroken, Olga asked Svyatoslav to stay in Kyiv a little longer, at least until she passed away. Svyatoslav wouldn't have to wait long, as 3 days after this request, Olga passed away on the 11th of July, 969 CE. In the end, Olga would be bedridden and would pass away surrounded by her son and grandsons. It is said that with her passing, the entire principality wept. Svyatoslav would respect his mother's devout faith by not performing the traditional Slavic feast and instead summoning a priest to perform last rites over her. Olga's grandson Vladimir the Great would rise to power and convert, officially adopting Christianity in 988 CE. He would go on to expand the kingdom into the First Russian Principality. The primary chronicle referred to Olga as the dawn that precedes the day. She shone like the moon by night, and she was radiant among the infidels like a pearl in the mire. She was the first from Rus to enter the kingdom of God, and the sons of Rus thus praise her as their leader, for since her death she has interceded with God in their behalf. 600 years after her passing, the Russian Orthodox Church would canonise Olga as a saint in 1547 due to her early adoption of and her attempts to spread Christianity. Saint Olga of Kyiv became the patron saint of converts and widows, and she is honoured under the honorific Isapostolos, meaning equal to the apostles. Saint Olga is honoured by both the Roman Catholic and Orthodox churches and is venerated in Ukraine today alongside the Archangel Saint Michael, the modern-day patron saint of Kyiv. The records of Saint Olga's exploits were written around 200 years after they actually happened, so some aspects may have been exaggerated or even fabricated. Now that I've said that to placate the boring people, we can get on with my thoughts of the video. The Rurik dynasty would go on to reign for around 700 years before they were replaced by the Romanovs. In 1240, the Mongols would sadly destroy St. Olga's tomb, but in 2010, a Ukrainian Orthodox cathedral dedicated to her was consecrated. And that is the story of Saint Olga of Kyiv, the woman who avenged her husband, the woman who made the first recorded legal reform in Eastern Europe, the woman who made the Eastern Roman Emperor simp for her, the woman who laid the foundation for Orthodox Christianity in Eastern Europe. Whether you love or hate her actions, Saint Olga of Kyiv had a massive impact on history and is one of history's most important historical figures. And yes, I will admit I'm coming from a place of bias here, as she is one of my favourite historical figures. As I said at the start of part 1, she's one of the other figures I simp for. And although I am coming from a place of bias, I hope I've delivered an incredibly unbiased argument as to why Saint Olga of Kyiv deserves my favouritism and simpery. It's rare in history you meet someone whose sole drive is duty and love. When Prince Mal offered his hand in marriage to Saint Olga, she didn't have a choice of finding a new prince. 1, that was her husband's murderer. 2, if she accepted the marriage, Svyatoslav would have at best been thrown to the wayside. And 3, who knows what the Drevlians would have done to the Kievan Rus. Saint Olga sought vengeance not just out of the love for her husband, but the duty to her son, to the future of the Kievan Rus, and to the Kievan Rus people themselves. All in all, Saint Olga is not just an important historical figure, she's an incredibly rare one. She fought not for conquest, not for money, not for power. She fought for her people, and she fought for her family. And I think that's pretty cool. Anyhow, comment below if I got anything wrong, if I missed anything, or if there's just something you would like to see in the future. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and tap that bell icon to get notified whenever I upload. Thank you all for watching, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.